For years, the global intelligence community operated on a fixed mathematical assumption. They believed Iran's maximum missile range was strictly capped at 2,000 kilometers. Then, a surprise launch shattered that assumption. Iran fired missiles far past that established perimeter, dropping them deep into the Indian Ocean. This map shows exactly what that looks like. We start with the 2,000-kilometer radius everyone expected. But the recent strike proves that circle actually snaps outward, expanding to a 4,000-kilometer radius that doubles their known threat reach in an instant. The target of this extended strike was a highly secure, strategically vital military installation run jointly by the United States and the United Kingdom, Diego Garcia. By launching this specific attack, Tehran deliberately exposed a hidden, long-range ballistic arsenal to the international community. Look at this isolated island airstrip. This is Diego Garcia. It sits thousands of miles from the mainland, positioned precisely at the crossroads of East Africa, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific. Even though it's technically a leased UK territory, the United States relies on this location as an indispensable pivot base to manage global operations and launch airstrikes across the Middle East. To cross that massive stretch of ocean, Iran utilized intermediate-range ballistic missiles, or IRBMs. An IRBM is a specific class of ballistic missile designed to travel between 3,000 and 5,500 kilometers. U.S. air defenses likely intercepted the incoming IRBMs before impact, meaning the base suffered no physical damage. However, leveling buildings was never the primary objective here. By putting Diego Garcia firmly in its crosshairs, Iran successfully demonstrated that distance no longer guarantees safety for remote Western bases. Until now, the conflict remained geographically contained. Strikes were localized to specific flashpoints in Israel, Iraq, and Syria. The Indian Ocean strike breaks that containment entirely. This diagram illustrates Iran's new strategy. On the left, vertical escalation hits a localized target with increasing force. On the right, horizontal escalation deliberately spreads attacks to strike multiple distant targets. Every new dot requires its own shield, rapidly depleting central military resources globally. Tehran has tied a new explicit rule of engagement to this strategy. They declared that any base, anywhere in the world, used to support logistics or launch strikes against Iran is now an active, legitimate target. Horizontal escalation multiplies the logistical burden on the Pentagon, drastically raising the financial and military cost of Western intervention in the region. The 4,000-kilometer strike carries equal weight as a tool of psychological warfare, specifically engineered to dismantle U.S. political messaging. Look at the domestic political narrative. Former President Donald Trump recently claimed that the U.S. has, for all practical purposes, already won the war militarily. In direct response, Iranian Foreign Minister Seyed Abbas Araghchi offered a sharp counter-narrative, comparing this American overconfidence to the Vietnam War's exact same script. He is invoking the credibility gap, a historical term originating in the 1960s, to describe the vast difference between a government's public claims of sweeping military victory and the actual complex reality playing out on the battlefield. Iran is using these long-range missiles for a dual purpose. They want to threaten remote bases and forcefully expose America's credibility gap to the rest of the world. The IRGC's strike on Diego Garcia integrates into a much larger, intensifying multi-front military campaign. This broader effort is part of Operation True Promise 4. This aggressive phase marks the 70th distinct wave of counterattacks initiated by Iran. The operation immediately targeted 5 specific U.S. military installations. These bases are spread out across Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Despite hopes in Washington for a quick resolution, the tactical reality on the ground shows the United States sinking deeper into an expanding, uncontainable regional conflict. This horizontal escalation is now unfolding directly in South Asia's maritime backyard, creating immediate geopolitical complications for India. New Delhi faces 2 primary threats from this expansion. First, there are severe risks to maritime security along India's most crucial ocean trade routes. Second, the disruption causes volatile swings in oil prices, exposing the Indian economy to deep energy vulnerabilities. Now, this creates a delicate strategic dilemma. India has to maintain strict geopolitical neutrality between the West and Iran, while simultaneously fighting to secure its own vital economic interests at sea. By proving they can strike 4,000 kilometers away, Iran essentially erased the traditional borders of the Middle East conflict, bringing the threat all the way to India's shores. अगर आपको ये video informative लगा, तो LLB student Aada को subscribe करें. Let us know in the comments which geopolitical topic